With that, so I am the executive director of Senior Care Volunteer Network, and we run a program here mainly in McHenry County. We do teeter over into a little bit of Kane, and we provide volunteer services. And those services are, rides, senior transportation, rides to and from appointments. We do friendly visits. We have a delivery program where we have volunteers who deliver items such as groceries. They'll run errands. They deliver birthday presents in all of our care recipients' birthday month. They also deliver personal items and products. And then they can call and request for other kind of odd jobs, if you will, but things that they need. So we have some volunteers that do some minor home repair projects. They're particularly handy. So people may call out and ask if we can go change light bulbs, on a high light, or maybe there's something they need to get up on a step stool, which could be a safety concern, and they may do that for them. We have someone who might go take the garbage cans out once a week. So seemingly things that most of us take for granted that we can do as the senior population ages. Those little tasks are harder and harder to do. And at Senior Care Volunteer Network, we provide those items and those services for them to just eliminate some of the barriers that come in as we age in place. And that is really our overall mission, is to keep people aging in their own homes as safely and and provide that quality of life that everyone deserves as they age gracefully. And then we also have a referral program, not quite as robust as Elderwerks provides. They have a lot more resources than we do, so we utilize them as a wonderful resource. But those who are enrolled, if they have questions or need assistance in those areas that are beyond our scope of service, we do refer out to other agencies who may be able to help them. So with that, I'm just going to talk a little bit about how that's kind of what we do and what our mission is at Senior Care Volunteer Network. But we also, our largest program that we have is our volunteer program. We have over 200 active volunteers in the community, and some do a lot and some do a little, and that's why the program works. One of the things that is most appealing to any volunteer program is the flexibility that you can allow the people if that's their need. I just wanted to talk about how powerful and what a positive impact volunteers make on the community. I think it's overall in communities across the country and probably worldwide, sometimes it's an undervalued service. So we're going to talk about some of the values. It fosters a sense of belonging. I did make some notes, so I'm going to make sure I don't forget anything. It does foster a sense of belonging. It promotes personal growth, strengthens social bonds, and this presentation is going to explore a bunch of different benefits of the community volunteering, highlighting its significance in enhancing individual lives and overall societal well-being. So I'm going to go through the slides here. Personal growth and development. So what does volunteering do? Well, it depends on where you're volunteering, but almost anywhere where you're contributing your time and your talent, you're going to be enhancing your skills. Maybe you worked in a profession your whole life as a administrative assistant or a teacher, or you were in the trades, whatever that might be. Some people, they want to get away from that and do something totally different. So there you're learning and enhancing skills maybe you utilized in your professional life, and you want to incorporate that into your volunteer life. But then there's other people that really are comfortable doing what they've done their whole life. And they just want to kind of continue doing that without that high level of accountability that sometimes comes with a paid position, right? So as people are moving through, the majority of our volunteers are retirees, seniors technically in the realm of our world, over 60. And, they're ramping down, they're not ramping up in a career. So as you ramp down in a career, you want to pick and choose the things that make you feel good, not so much what you're told to do. So another component of that is you want to enhance your skills, but you also want to be able to utilize the skills that you're most comfortable with, because volunteering should never be or feel uncomfortable. So what else does it? It boosts your self-esteem. It provides you some confidence. Again, maybe it's completely new volunteer opportunity than you've ever done before. Well, as you continue to do it and as you learn more and enhance those skills, like we just said, you're going to feel more comfortable. It's going to confirm for you and verify and validate all the things that you've done and make you feel good about yourself. And so that's always important. And along with that comes that promoting mental health and emotional well-being. Most people volunteer, the motivation behind it, and you're going to hear this probably on every slide, do it because it's fulfilling. It's fulfilling work. It makes you feel good, and it makes the people around you benefit from your service, your love, your compassion, your heart, everything that you give. The recipient on the other end is going to feel too. But the underlying theme on what volunteerism is and what it does is what it does for the actual volunteer, which is why most programs are very successful. Those are feelings you can't really go buy off the shelf somewhere. You have to experience it. So emotional, the mental and emotional well-being too, that comes with that is attachment and connectedness to people, into the community, even if you're volunteering in a capacity that is, less people oriented, right? Let's say you like to go in and you like to work on data, or you like entering things in the computer, you're not a real strong people person. Well, that might be a way to enhance skills. Give it a try. What do you have to lose? Likely not going to get fired. So, it's a great opportunity for you to maybe touch into those areas that make you normally feel anxious. And then if you don't like it, you don't have to do it. So that's always a nice thing too. Enhancing skills. So one of the things about enhancing skills, and I just sort of touched on it, is being able to communicate with people. So in our organization, because we work with the senior population primarily, our goals are to connect people where they are. And sometimes that means accommodations with communication. We work primarily the seniors who need services call in on the phone. Well, that may need, a special skill set, and being patient and understanding. Maybe it's hard to hear people, maybe they're deaf. And so their enunciations are a little bit different, and you have to hear, really, really put some effort into hearing what they have to say. And understanding what they're trying to convey over the phone is very important, at least here. But it would probably carry over into any opportunity that you're looking to do. There's that sense of teamwork. So being part of a network like ours we're just really one big team. So we have so many different volunteers who are doing so many different things in their own worlds. We have team leaders here who kind of embrace the people on their team. So we have a delivery team, we have a transport team, we have a lending closet, we have a medical equipment lending closet, and we have people who are on that team. But then as a whole, we're a community. So no one is ever or should ever feel like they're not part of something that again promotes that individualism, but also group companionship. And a lot of that will come with, I have box elder bugs. So if you see anything flying around me, just so you know. So the teamwork component's important. And then there's the problem solving. This kind of goes back to when you're in any sort of situation where you might be, I guess, forced to look at things from a different perspective. And again, when we deal with the senior population, that happens pretty frequently because day to day, something can change, right? We've learned this with our medical equipment lending closet. You can be perfectly fine one day, fall, or experience, a setback of some kind. The next day is a whole different thing. So again, meeting people where they are, helping people figure out, well, what kind of piece of equipment might they need if they have a fall, helping people to solve their problems. And like I said earlier, we do a lot of referrals out to organizations like Elderwerks because we don't have the answers to everything and we can't provide the services for everything. Our volunteers are amazingly good listeners, and sometimes that's all you need. And that goes back to that communication piece. And I think that overall, that hands-on experience is going to give you a lot more know-how as you do something. Volunteering is one of those things, like anything you try, the more you do it, the more likely it'll become comfortable. You'll get to know the content better. You'll get to know the activities and how they run. And, hopefully when you find a volunteer opportunity that feels right, then you're going to stay in there a long time and continue to provide that service. And then you become a leader. So there's also that component of leadership, which even in volunteer areas, right? Someone's always got to, at some point, kind of take the lead on something. We do have staff at a CVN. We have, a handful of people who are those team owners, and those team owners help with direction. But in any team, we need support to carry out the mission. And those team leaders, volunteer team leaders, are very critical to our program. And I'm sure that anyone who steps up and wants to continue to do that in other programs is going to be embraced by the organization itself. We look to people to help us carry out the mission. That's why they volunteer for us. So if you have those qualities, let people know when you're looking into opportunities that, you enjoy leading people. That helps the organization you're going to volunteer with have a better concept of what place would be good for you. So always be honest, always talk about that. And if you have those leadership qualities, lean into them, utilize them, because you're only going to benefit the organization overall. Confidence. So it kind of goes back to, enhancing skills to a point. Confidence comes with doing things over and over and over and over again. But I will tell you, we have volunteers, they'll take one ride. They'll come in as a volunteer. They'll say, oh, I'm interested in taking someone on a transport, getting them to dialysis, getting them home, just to see if I like it. We have never had anyone who's taken a ride not come back and take more rides, right? You feel like you accomplished something, you're prideful in what you did because it made you feel good, but because you also helped someone get a service that they otherwise may not have gotten. And that's extremely rewarding. And the confidence that comes with each service is an amazing thing to watch and to feel. And, then with that comes your increased self-worth. So one of the things about volunteering that's kind of important to mention here is that sometimes when people retire, I won't say they lose a sense of self-worth, but I think they lose a sense of identity because they have been connected to their career their whole life. And it's not something we plan on, but it does sort of become a big part of our identity. Think of how many times when someone asks what you did for a living, you say, well, I'm an accountant. Well, you're not an accountant, you perform accounting services, right? So the one thing I can think of that's so awesome to say is, oh, what do you do in your free time? I'm a volunteer. It's who I am. It's a characteristic. It's not a job. It's not a profession. It's how I define myself. Even though I have a career, I love to volunteer. That's why I'm in this organization to begin with. So, kind of finding an identity as a volunteer comes very naturally, unlike a career where you're like really trying to work at, becoming something that you have your brain set on, or that your employer asks of you, you kind of become that. And it's not always what we want to become. Becoming a volunteer and being able to identify it is just so fulfilling. And it really does boost that confidence and that self-worth, to know that you're doing something that's so meaningful and impactful to someone else is a treasure. So with the promoting mental health and emotional well-being, did I repeat my slide? It looks like I did. All right, well, we can skip that one because I think it's the same one. Okay, so now we're into building stronger communities. How does volunteerism build stronger communities? Well, we create a sense of belonging. So again, your community, no matter where you are, has its own identity, right? So how do we become part of that, and how do we insert ourselves into a community, and then how do we contribute to build it up? So one of the, and then addressing community needs, that's another one. So you may think, I'm going to try and give you an example here. Let's say you're volunteering for a school as a teacher support, was it teacher's aide, right? And you're working and you're volunteering as a teacher's aide, and you realize that there's an identifiable need. Maybe it's, well, we don't have enough items in the classroom for some of the kids who may be on the autism spectrum, right? To occupy them and distract them from being disruptive in class. And that is just totally an example I pulled out of my brain. That may not even happen. But let's say you're a volunteer and you identify that need. Well, how is that going to build a stronger community? Well, if you've identified a gap that you feel like you can contribute something to help remove some challenges and barriers in that community, and that community is that classroom, then you would do what you needed to do to try and, contribute to a preventative option, right? So you might be like, you know what, I'm going to go out and ask my friends, if they want to donate something for the classroom, and I'll bring them in and maybe that'll help out. So that part's important in a small community example sense. Now, in the greater community, let's talk about your town. Let's say there's no recycling, and you are really big into, and you have a passion for green works and making sure that things are disposed of properly or recycled properly, and you're living in a community where that doesn't exist. It is so amazing to be part of something, a movement that engages you in a way that's fulfilling your own passion, but also making a profound impact on the surrounding community. That will make you feel good, but it also, look at the contribution to the community, is amazing. So to do that, though, you do have to assess, what are the needs in the community? How can I contribute to them? What is the impact I can make? And those are all things that you have to consider when you're looking at volunteer opportunities. Make sure it's something that you want to do, that you're passionate about, that you can make an impact, because if you can do those things, it'll definitely come back to you and fulfill you. If you can't do those things, you want to keep looking. I tell people all the time, this is like my big mantra around here, is if the shoes aren't comfortable, don't wear them, but don't quit trying on other pairs of shoes. You will find an opportunity that fits you and is comfortable and makes you want to keep going. And so I tell people, just don't give up. Keep looking for that right opportunity, because you will find it. So as far as a sense of belonging, it does foster deeper connection to your community. Volunteerism encourages collaboration. Going back to my classroom community example, you're now working with teachers. You may now be working with administrators. You may now be working with all kinds of people on a team and collaborating with them on creating, solutions to problems. That's impactful. Sometimes people are volunteering and they just want to go and they want to do kind of what they're asked to do and then go home, and that's okay. But even doing that, there's collaboration. Someone's got to show you how to do it or what they need done, and then, provide you with the materials and all of those things. So you can't volunteer alone. There's always a sense of some sort of collaboration, even if it's with one other person, to get things done and feel good about it. And then in that process, you will find friends. We have a reception team here of almost 20 people. And on Monday, there'll be a volunteer that comes in from 9 to noon. And then another volunteer comes in noon to 3. And then we have 2 on Tuesday. Anyway, the schedule is crazy. But even if we have someone who works Monday and someone who works Friday, and they don't ever really cross paths, every quarter or so we get together, we have a luncheon or something, and they get to meet, and they all have this common interest. They're on the same team. And I'm telling you, you will find friends and camaraderie in those groups, and you will keep those for life. Some of the best friends I've ever had going back 20 years have been people I've met in volunteer groups, where you just connect. You're wired the same. You wouldn't be there if you didn't have a big heart and want to help. And so you immediately know you have something in common walking into the room, which is not something you get, just walking into any room. So the friendships you're going to build are just amazing. And again, going back to identifying those community gaps, helping to organize efforts, creating an inclusive environment. So one of the things about volunteerism that's important is to not only look for opportunities where it's what you're passionate about, but that the group is inclusive, that they're welcoming new people. It's not cliquey. It's maybe not fostering the strongest and most inviting environment. If you start into that and it doesn't feel right, again, go try on a different pair of shoes where you get that fulfillment, you get that feeling. And then in that, you will make the greatest impact for sure. As far as the civic responsibility, I covered some of those things. These are just some bullet points to go over that. The advocacy part and the activism part is important too. So at Senior Care Volunteer Network, since the majority of our volunteers are also considered senior age, they are our organization's advocates for the volunteer program. So when we go out looking for volunteers to participate in our program, one of the biggest things we can ask our volunteers to support us with is that advocacy, not just for the senior population we serve, but for the organization that's providing the opportunity to others so that they can give back. So when you look at an organization that has a volunteer opportunity, you have to look at it from the perspective of, yes, we need to help X group, and yes, we need to help these people in need. But really, the leadership in that organization is also there to help provide something for you. And I think sometimes that's kind of pushed to the side a little bit in some organizations. I've volunteered at some organizations. I've showed up. There's really, there's nothing worse than to tell a volunteer who shows up that, gee, I'm sorry, there's nothing for you to do today. This is the worst possible thing you could ever tell anybody, but especially a volunteer. So it's meeting their needs too. We have an accountability to that. And so that's important when you're looking for opportunities that, the ones that come across your table as opportunities, they are actually needing to be carried out because that's where the impact is made. So we believe here, we don't make up volunteer opportunities just to make them up, right? Everything we do has some sort of outcome that would have an impact, not only for the person we're serving, but for the person who's providing the service. And in that, you can drive positive change. Don't ever think volunteering won't fulfill that. That's got to be the outcome on everything you do, is driving positive change. We can't change the situations. Our organization can't wave a magic wand and all of a sudden every senior in the world isn't going to have any needs. We know there's going to be needs. We know our volunteer program will drive positive change because we see it every day. And a lot of organizations who have volunteer programs will do that too. Economic benefits. This is an interesting thing I wanted to bring up because I'm not sure every volunteer out there understands that there are economic benefits to volunteering. And one of them is reducing service costs. So like in our organization, we do not charge for any of our services. And one of the main reasons is because we don't have to employ 200 people. We have 200 volunteers. They don't all work at the same time. And then I think I mentioned they don't all do all of it. And some of them do a little and some do a lot. And it all averages out. But we're looking at probably 5 to 8 full-time equivalent staff that we would need to be in paid positions to provide. And actually it would be more than that, because no one person can be in the same place at the same time. And when we're doing transportation services, we can have 15 to 20 people out on the road at any given time, right? So I can't hire 20 people, nor should a nonprofit organization probably do that to fulfill a community need where volunteers want to help. So as far as that goes, though, there's the other component too, with the reducing of costs. Being able to do it that way keeps it no cost for the end user, for the consumer, the care recipient, whoever needs that help isn't going to have to pay for it, because we're able to implement this model where the majority, for us, 200 plus people are contributing their time, their talent, their resources, and we're able to get things done. The outcomes are amazing. Last year we did over 8,000 rides. We gave 8,000 rides to seniors living in McHenry County, and we could not have done that without the volunteers. We couldn't have done it not charging the seniors for the rides, and we could not have done it without the front desk, volunteers taking all of those requests. It wouldn't work. We would need to raise probably $2 million a year to pay staff that do all the work that a volunteer does here. And you can't do that, not to the seniors on the other end who would have to cover the costs, to pay for all that staff, but it's not good on a community economically either. Creating jobs is great, but in the nonprofit world, we need to utilize the people who are willing to donate their time, and we embrace it because they become your greatest commodity. And then I brought this up too. So there's a website, it's really cool. It's called the Independent Sector. And those of us in organizations who write grants and need to kind of highlight our models and volunteer work, we utilize this as a gauge. The value of volunteer time right now is $34.79 per hour. That is what the standard right now for volunteer service is. If you were to put a monetary value on a volunteer hour, that's what it would be. And with this is staggering, because in our organization with over 15,000 miles, you're looking, or 15,000 hours, volunteer hours a year, you're looking at almost $500,000 in value that the volunteers bring to this organization, which is actually more than my annual budget altogether. And that's not counting all the free equipment we get donated and all the food we get donated and all the birthday cards and everything. So as far as the economic and community contributing pieces to it, the volunteer service itself is not only saving, like I said, the end user, it's also saving the community dollars, right? So if we have a volunteer who can go take grandma to her dialysis appointment and bring her home, that might be alleviating a day off for maybe their adult child who has a full-time job, and so that they can continue to work. So it also benefits the entire community. It helps businesses retain their employees. It helps alleviate some of that caregiver strain, so that adult child doesn't have to go out or take a day off and potentially lose pay to make those kinds of appointments. And it empowers the person on the other end to make that call, ask for help, let us helping them, which in turn creates fulfillment for a volunteer. So if you look at the cycle, it's helping in so many ways, but it's also helping in this economic way of reducing service costs. And it also you know, with the employers and things like that, or physicians even, you know, us bringing these patients to their establishments, us bringing them to the store, you know, we're engaging them, which is fantastic, but we're also bringing consumers to them, which eventually, you know, spend money. So it's a huge contributor to the economy overall. And then there's some other parts too. There's, you know, projects that we gather supplies and equipment and services that benefits everyone. Sometimes we have community drives. We'll do service projects to promote the volunteer program, but at the same time, giving information back. This is kind of an example for us to go out and encourage and promote volunteerism in the communities. You know, we may not benefit directly, but we know that volunteerism in general is going to strengthen communities overall. And again, you know, we're just one opportunity of thousands and thousands of volunteer opportunities. It's just, my message is always just try something on and see if it works for you. The social service rich communities also increase property values, right? If you live in a community where it's service rich and there's a lot of organizations or nonprofits serving that community, you will find that the value of the community itself is, you know, caring and embraces the people and the volunteer spirit. Your communities are going to thrive. And if you have a thriving community that supports one another, you know, your community and your property values and all of that will increase because you live in a good area. It's a great community. And so that's a contributor to economics as well.